Hello, Miss Nele. Hello.
Well,
Or should I say hello, I guess, right? Is that the proper way to say hello in German?
yes, hello or guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
And where I'm from the northern part of Germany, it's moin moin.
Moin moin. I like that. See, guys, I always have to say this. We're not going to be speaking German during this live. If we are, it's going to be very one-ended, but it's nice to kind of hear the proper dialect, kind of get into the zone as we're traveling with Nele to Berlin today. So thank you for being with us, Nele. What time is it where you are?
It's 6 o'clock. It's actually a little earlier than I anticipated because we already had the wintertime clock change.
Oh, that's right. I think ours is like next week.
Yeah,
possibly. Yeah.
exactly. It's always
Excellent.
a few weeks apart.
Exactly. Guys, Nele is missing her dinner time to be with us today. So please, if you do have any questions for her, she's excited to answer those for you. Awesome. Well, as we know, you're the resident director for the program in Berlin. So if you can just tell us a little bit about how that journey as a resident director started for you, a little bit about yourself, your background, and the intricacies of your role, if you can just get us started with that.
Sure, no problem. I'm really happy to be here and talk a little bit about Berlin and our work here. I'm from Hamburg, which is the second largest city in Germany, but I've moved to Berlin about over 15 years ago. But you can never say that you're a Berliner unless you actually were born here. The Berliners take it very seriously. I studied history, art history, and English literature, and I worked as a tour guide in the neighboring city of Potsdam. And it's really a cool way sort of to be. So I have to just adjust the volume. I hear myself again. I love being in Berlin. It's a big city, huge, has a lot of opportunities for everyone, but I love the art scene. I love everything, museums, food stuff, all like that. I worked as a tour guide, as I said, so I have experience with a lot of different groups, but I'm very happy to have Americans here with our groups as well. And I've only been in the US twice, so it's always nice to hear about all these little places that
Okay. I may have.
yeah. Sorry.
Oh, are you with us, Nele? There you are.
Shouldn't be on my end. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. You're good.
Okay. Let me just see if I need to adjust anything, but should be okay. Yeah, so the work that I do in Berlin as a resident director is being here as support for our students from before they get here. Of course, I have everything set up before they get here. But then it's also about helping out with a few German weirdness things. So something like the washing machine is different and how to work that. Explaining sort of a bit about especially the Berlin abruptness and roughness sometimes in language. And that's always fun. And this is something that I can very much sort of sympathize with in having that as an oddity, because where I'm from, it's not the same thing.
Exactly.
We are a bit more polite.
Exactly, yes. Nele and I had a nice little chat earlier, and one of the things that she said, which I thought was really cool and can kind of be relative to any U.S. student that's coming to Germany, to Berlin, is the regions are different, right? Like not every state in the U.S. is the same. Not every region in Germany is the same. The culture is a little different based off of the geographics. But you said Berlin is to New York City as maybe Munich and the Bavarian regions are to like Texas, right? So there's a little bit of a dynamic difference there. Very cool. I love that. Awesome.
If anyone expects in Berlin, expects Dirndl and Lederhosen and the beer fest, that's not what the big city life is about. So Berlin really is the capital and the big city, and yeah.
Absolutely. Very cool. And they'll, students that are studying abroad, there's excursions. We're going to unpack those a little bit later. There's all sorts of different opportunities for them to see regions outside of Berlin. You're not required to stay put for your weekends and your leisure time. So if you want to go to the Texas of Germany, you can certainly, there will be time for that, especially if you're doing a long-term fall or spring semester. Very cool, Nele. Awesome. So we've talked about this. We've talked about this in our lives. Kind of what are those elements, right, that might be most appealing to students about studying Berlin? So why would they choose this city to study in, if you could break that down?
A lot of people come for the history, and going to Germany, we have a lot of heritage students. If I scroll through the names of the applicants, I can always spot the few that have German ancestry, and that's always like, okay, this and this and this. And sometimes it's very recent. It's like, oh, my mom was actually German and she moved to the US. And most of the time it's the grandparents. So we have these kind of ancestry heritage students coming here to discover their roots. But of course we have history buffs coming here. And Berlin is full of history, and it's so much fun to sort of walk through, because right next to each other you can see the 20th century sort of in one street. You can walk past a building where there's bullet holes from World War II that are remaining as a sort of remnant of this is what war looks like. But then the next house over is very modern architecture, and then you go through, and then there's a little marking on the street where the wall was standing. So you have the Cold War period, you have the Nazi times all together. So that's always really fun. Berlin is well known for its music scene, especially electronic music. So anyone who is into kind of, really electronic music is at home here. And anyone belonging to the LGBTQIA+ community can be very free here. We of course have gay clubs and bars and areas, but it's really mixing everyone together. One of my favorite spots in the city is this karaoke place. And I sometimes take students, if I like the groups a lot, we go out and have a look at it. And if they like karaoke, not every group does.
Right.
But we go to this karaoke place, and they have restrooms for the gents and the ladies and for the undecided. And it's sort of a free-for-all, and everyone can perform as they want. And they have Tuesday diva drag nights, and it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. It's a very progressive city, is what it sounds like. Excellent. So, and I think we do have a study and travel program, one of our summer programs, which is dedicated to the LGBTQ+ history and community. And I do think that passes through Berlin. I could be wrong on that, but I'm 90% sure that is the case. So it is a very progressive city. Very awesome. I just lost my questions. Thank you.
Our mayor, if I can just interject to that, some of the fun facts here. Our mayor that we used to have, not the current one, is gay and prominently said so. And the head of state, as we all know, is a woman, Angela Merkel. She's the chancellor. And then we also had, for a short time, we had a gay secretary of state. So whenever we had sort of foreign dignitaries visiting, and then the ladies had the lady program, they were accompanied by only men, because the head ladies were all men here, because everyone is sort of gay or in a relationship where the woman is actually the one in power. So that's encompassing Berlin quite well.
Yeah, not only just progressive to the locals, the citizens, the tourists, but just the leadership throughout the country as well. That's pretty groundbreaking stuff. Awesome.
Yeah, cool.
Very cool. Fun facts. I love these. it's one thing to, like, you can look up these things in like a, a website, whatever. You can go down the Google rabbit hole, but to hear it from the horse's mouth, a local herself, it's pretty cool stuff. Awesome. So in terms of the university programs that we offer two. Can you tell us a little bit about those two universities, the difference in maybe the culture, excuse me, or scene of the university, and are there any classes for each of those that are most appealing to students that maybe they wouldn't find in their home universities?
Sure. So the summer and January program take place with the Humboldt University in Berlin. This is the old university. For Germany, it's really young. It was only founded in the 1860s. So that's a very young university, but at least it's in an old palace. So there's that little extra thing. Yeah. It's the king's brother's palace, the Prince Palace. So that's where the main university is, and it's right downtown. It's right in the city center. And this is a very international program, the summer program and also January. We have many Australians who take part in it. There's a lot of people from Asia, from Singapore, from Hong Kong, and we have students from Russia, from all over Europe, and then our group from the US, and there's sometimes a few others as well. So if you want to make international connections, if you want to have classes with people from all over the world, this is really cool. One of the most popular classes, besides taking German language, which in the summer and January program is voluntary to do so, is the Nazi Germany, past and present, kind of. You walk around the city, see a lot, visit the concentration camp that was close to Berlin, the memorial for it. And so that's really a poignant point of history that you can see there. So that's really interesting. That university, Humboldt University, was called the Berlin University. And it was in the Russian sector when the city was divided. So in the 1940s, when we had the divided city and we had the 4 sectors here, a few professors and students from the university here, from the Berlin University, decided to open up a new free university. And that's where our other program is at, the 𝗟𝗘𝗧𝗦 Berlin. And that's the free university, and it was free thinkers. Nowadays, of course, communism is not here anymore, and we don't get ruled by it here. But we do have the 2 universities sort of on opposite ends of the city. Our semester program is with the 𝗟𝗘𝗧𝗦, and we have a specialized program that we take part in, the FU-Best program, which is on an American calendar. The German semesters are vastly different. We don't have fall and spring. We actually have winter and summer semesters. So they start next week when everyone else is coming back from break, basically. Next week is when the students go back in. And that program is the long-term program. It's in the Southwest and the former American sector. And there's a little satellite campus that our students are on. Some of the classes that they love to take, our students, is the architecture in Berlin. Sorry, I'm reading the title, so I get it correct.
That's okay. Yeah, you know them better. That's all right. No worries.
Architecture in Berlin from the 19th century to today. There's a European business culture class that is very popular. And then environmental politics and policy in Europe. And this is a big theme. We have sort of, these green powers, everything sort of going sustainable. That's a big issue and theme here in Germany. And students can see this all around the city. I have to explain the trash system when students get here, because you have to sort and recycle and sort through your trash and bring back the bottles for the deposit and everything like this. So it's a big part of our culture here.
Excellent. Well, that's a good habit to probably adopt and bring back to the U.S. is just, obviously you have to follow different rules and regulations, and recycling maybe not be, neck for neck, but definitely something progressive that you can adopt and bring back to the U.S. A good habit, a good study abroad habit. Excellent. Very good. Yeah, lots of different classes. offered for fall and spring, and then again, like you said, for J term, when we resume J term, and our summer programs at Humboldt. So lots of good stuff, guys. All of those are listed on our site. So if you see one that you like, have questions about it, questions that maybe we cannot answer, we will send you over to Nele, and she will. She is the guru. She knows everything. So you're in good hands. Very cool. So does a student have to be, you know, a level of any kind of fluency or speak any kind of German in order to be successful in the program?
Not at all. We have in the summer program or in the short-term programs the language part of it is optional. Students may take German if they wish to, and a lot of them do. But there's classes on very different levels that are operational, and there's usually also a class for anyone who's more proficient in German writing, German literature. So for anyone who is trying to expand on their German knowledge, this might be something for the summer that is interesting to do, can also take a class in German. But the program for the summer and for January for J-term is all in English, and that's fine. The FUBES program, our sister sort of the program that we work with here at the 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦, the semester program, that has a mandatory German component. However, you don't have to have any German knowledge prior to coming here. There is an option to just take, they call it Experiential German, which only comes up twice a week, and you basically get one class credit, 3 credits for it for the semester. You meet twice a week, plus once or every 2 weeks, you meet up with the professor, go to IKEA and name furniture and say, this here it's not a bookshelf, but das ist ein Regal, das Bücherregal. And then this is the flag, die Flagge, something like that. Die Flagge. I mean, that's easy enough, right?
That one I think we can get. Yeah.
And there's also IKEA. Sorry for the advertisement.
Oh no, that's okay. We'll have to.
And then
add IKEA in the chat.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
The plan. So a lot of words are similar, and this is always fun. And then at IKEA, of course, you can also name the furniture with the names they give you, the Swedish names. So that makes it more complicated.
Right. We find okay.
The German component, if you are a German major or if you have German prior knowledge, then you have to take the intensive German classes, and those take place 4 times a week. And for the semester, you basically go through 2 levels of German, and you get 6 credits at the end for it. And you really pick up your German a lot, and you can practice. It's nice in the city if you have it. However, I've lived with roommates who were from Canada who did not speak a lick of German. They were fine. They lived here for 2 years. It's all good.
Yes.
So every day there's enough English around, and Berlin is a very international city. So it's not a huge issue if you don't speak German quite well. Of course, a bitte and danke, the please and thank you is always nice.
Thank you. Yeah. Know your manners, and maybe how to say where is. And I always say help is a good one to know in case you need to you know, seek assistance anytime quickly. Would you say, because you are a local, but granted you are from a northern part of Germany, so you're not native to Berlin originally, would you say that the locals are approachable, friendly, they're receptive to a student who's trying to maybe speak the language and not getting it perfect? Like what is that reception with the locals?
Most students have told me that they were always sort of greeted friendly, and if they need help, there's always someone around. It's not an issue. However, if you're in high stress situations like going grocery shopping and you are not prepared for how to handle the checkout, you might have like a little bit of a demeanor. You have to sort of understand that there's a certain way things are done. And Germans love the rules and regulations, and if you're not privy to them, it's hard to adhere to them. But what we do actually, we have a little video showing how to handle the supermarket that we show during orientation. There's no one bagging things for you. You have to have your money ready or your card. You have to say a friendly hello, and you have to bag as you are paying. There's no hanging around, chit-chat, idly talking to a cashier.
It's a move it or lose it kind of situation. Very cool.
But other than that, if you're in a tourist setting, if you're somewhere you're trying to find your way around, you took the wrong bus and you're somewhere, everyone will be helpful, friendly, helping you out. And the thing with Germans is they might not consider you a friend immediately. There's like there's a colleague kind of thing. Then there's the step up is a Bekannter, which is it's a friendly face. You know that person, but you basically just say hello. You have some chit chat, but then that's it. And then there's a friend. And once you make a German friend, you make a friend for life. So that's always fun.
Excellent. Yeah. And I think, you know, if that's any reflection of a student making their efforts, then we've done something right. Would you say that's part of the orientation, right? Is the supermarket dash intro video, if you will, how to the supermarkets for dummies, whatever you want to call that. What other kind of things do you cover in the orientation that are useful to students throughout their term?
We try and cover a multitude of things. I usually do an extra workshop just for travel and how to organize it and which websites to use and how to do the train ticket bookings and stuff like this, because it just gets too much. But in the normal orientation, I will cover the areas of Berlin, how to get around, how the system for public transportation works. And in all our programs, our students always have a transportation pass for the city of Berlin, so they can go around. It's a really well-oiled machine. It works really nicely. They have on Saturdays, Fridays and Saturday nights, when you maybe go out and party a little bit, there's 24/7 sort of service, and the other nights there's buses instead, so you can always get home even on public transport. It's very safe. So that's nice. So we explain that. We explain how the university works, and then just sort of general life, what is expected in the apartments, how do students, sort of how we expect the program to run, the excursions we do. But we also go into the German peculiarities. And there's always a student who had been in Germany before, or there's someone who has traveled a few days before coming to the program. And they can always already say, yeah, I didn't know what to do about tipping. And there was someone shouting something at me, but it sounded nice, but I didn't understand it. So we go over a few easy phrases. We tip. There's a big thing that, of course, the Europeans don't tip. Yes, we do. But servers still get paid a living wage, but it's just a minimum wage, and so they get more when we tip nicely. So we explain this, we explain how that works, and go into sort of details like that. And of course, we go over things like insurance and medical emergencies. And this is something that is a big part of my job, obviously. If there is a crisis, students have in the handbook that we hand out, they have tools on to reach a counselor or to go to a pharmacy, connect to doctors, but most of the times everyone will sort of connect to me, and then I will start going out with them either to the clinics, to healthcare professionals, and organize all that. So in a crisis, it's nice to have us here sort of as a little kind of support system in myself at the moment.
Yes.
And yes. Know that there's always someone that will take you somewhere that you need to go.
Yes, you'll grab them by the hand. I will say we don't sugarcoat things here. We went through the crises with the pandemic, and all of our resident director staff, including Nele, just very integral part of getting everyone home safely, quickly, with just no issues whatsoever. So again, a less than ideal situation that we all had to kind of go through together, but we all made it in one piece, and you guys were such an integral part of that. So thank you, Nele, for all that you do. Crisis, non-crisis, we love and appreciate you. Awesome. Can we talk a little bit about volunteer opportunities that might be offered, whether that's through our organization, through you, the resident director, setting that up individually, or if it's through the university? Are there some kind of outlets for students to volunteer if that's something of interest to them?
In the short-term programs, we usually don't offer it because by the time students get their bearings and they're here 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or 8 weeks, they already are going home.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't even have anything where you can just easily sort of take part in. We have volunteer opportunities that the university organizes in our semester program. And we have had students who took part in organizing clothing, for example, and donated goods for refugees. As we are all aware, in 2015, Germany took in almost 1 million refugees coming from Syria and other countries. There's been a big demand in helping out. It always depends a little bit on what the student wants to do. If they research, we can always help connect them. And if they stick to the sort of volunteer possibilities that they find out. We had another student who had a bit more German knowledge, and she helped out in a school with little children, and she really loved it. And she was here for a full year as well, so that was a big difference. She didn't do so much volunteer work in the first semester, but in the second semester, she already, knew what was going on, and then she had more time for volunteer work.
Yeah, kind of had her bearings on the city. Awesome. Yeah, and that just goes to show, you can be a non-German speaker or have some kind of level of learning, language learning, what have you, and we can still kind of find a way to fit those opportunities in for you. You don't have to be completely fluent to participate, nor do you have to not have any knowledge at all. So whatever that range of language knowledge is, there are some opportunities if that is something that is of interest to the students. And like you said, we can always help connect them if they have a particular interest. We'll always, entertain and assist with that. Awesome. Very cool. I have heard through the grapevine, through students, through field staff, through anybody who has visited our Berlin campus, our program rather, that this is probably the nicest dorm housing known to man through AIFS. So can you tell us a little bit about the housing options that are available for programs in Berlin, and then also why are these houses or these housing situations so lovely? Nele, can you tell us?
So in the semester program, we offer homestays and apartments. I personally love the homestay option. The lady who organizes it is very connected to the family. She knows everyone very well. So if we have a student who plays an instrument and they want to practice here, she can place that student with a family that also is interested in music. If there's someone who might need a support animal but can't bring their own and might love to have a dog or a cat in the family, she can try and organize this. We have a lot of male participants coming to Berlin as well, in comparison to what my other colleagues have told me in Italy and Spain. Sometimes they get a lot more female students than male. And it might not feel comfortable to live, in a setting where you are with a woman and she's the host mother and you're there on your own. But then they can also place you with a single guy as well, or in a family, whatever sort of tickles your fancy. And it's really good to have that kind of. We have students write an intro essay. Be honest, but also be sort of forthcoming on what you can bring to it and what you expect. And if you are gay, if you are, if you have maybe body issues, if you have any anxiety, feel free to sort of tell us about it and give an honest statement, because this is how we can place people in the homestay. So I really love that option. And then the other option that we have is the apartments. And I've searched quite a long time for them. We used to have dorm rooms that were okay-ish, and now we found really nice apartments. At the moment, the ones that we use have single rooms, all of them. In Germany, it's not very common to have shared rooms, and so we have single rooms, a shared kitchen and bathroom, and 2 or 3 students share an apartment. We always give students an option in our sort of questionnaire beforehand, in our apartment housing questionnaire, to say, you know, what gender do they say they are. It doesn't have to be the one on your passport. Who do they want to be placed with? Do they have a preference? And these housing options are really nice. So we have balconies typically at the apartments. They have a washing machine usually included, and if it's not in the apartment, it's downstairs in the basement room. There is all kinds of shopping around, and just a few minutes to walk to the station, to the next Bergland station. A lot of students once said that this is nicer than their.
I don't know.
This is nicer.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of giving me the feedback that their housing is nicer than the housing they have at their own campus. So it works really well. It's a bed, a desk, very sort of functioning kind of wardrobe situation, and then usually you have a chair to sit in, maybe a couch sometimes. And it's a good spot to hang out with other students, make your own little, you know, frittata parties and stuff like this.
Yeah. One of the benefits of the housing, guys, especially, you know, we're talking about student apartments, is you might encounter somebody in that housing that you don't have a class with. And that's another way to make friendships and find people to go out with and explore the city with, what have you. One of the things that you said about homestays that was really cool is you get to kind of, you almost have like a matchmaking process, right? Where you just want to find the best match for the student. It's not so much about who's available and who has an empty bed, but like, you know, based off of the things that you bring to the table, based off of your dynamic, whatever that may be, your preferences, you know, we want to kind of find that best match for you the first go around. So it's not just, you know, filling out a form, this is my gender, this is it's so many other questions in that, so that you can have the best experience possible. It's your home is your sanctuary, right? Whether you're abroad, whether you're, you know, in the US, in your home country, in your dorm, in your parents' house, wherever you are during this quarantine, it's your sanctuary. And we want to kind of go the extra mile to make sure that the student is comfortable. And AIFS Berlin does an excellent job with that. So yeah, if you have a pretty bad dorm room, maybe consider Germany. Not that that's going to be the end all be all of why you choose a program, but it's a good bonus in there, that's for sure. Awesome. Very
One
cool.
thing I want to add to the homestays, if anyone wants to practice their German, it doesn't even have to be very proficient yet, because most of us do speak some English. But if you want to practice your German, go into a homestay, because this is where you can practice your German at all times. Also, little perks, you get dinner and breakfast included if you're in a homestay. So you don't have to worry about any kind of cost for that. And it's not like you're in a family setting where you are bound to sort of the rules and regulations. You're not a minor, you're adult. You go abroad and you basically live as a roommate, but you have this family connection. We've also had students who lived with another younger person in a sort of like shared flat arrangement. And they just sort of got some of the money, basically like a cashback thing for the dinner, because they all made their own things. So if you're very independent and you think, I can only go to apartments, but I maybe want to have the connection to Germans, to someone local, the homestay can still be for you. It just has to be decided quite early on. So before, you know, when your application is due, you have to decide on if you want to do the homestay or the apartments that we do. But they're both good options. And I just know that the homestay, sometimes people have a bit of a preconceived notion about it. And it's like, oh no, I don't want to go back to my parents, but that's not what it is.
You might end up liking your German family more than your original family. We won't tell anyone if that's the case. Yeah,
I
that
hope not.
matchmaking process is very they want to take time and do their due diligence with that. So yes, that's going to be early on into the application process, but well worth it for that kind of an experience. Very cool. Cultural opportunities, right? So you're obviously going to have these interlaced through your time throughout just the city of Berlin, but if you can tell us a little bit about, outside of just the typical orientation, you know, happenings and what they'll experience and what you'll show them during that time, just some cultural opportunities that are available to students throughout their program.
So the good thing is, if you're a student in Germany, you get reductions everywhere.
Oh.
So you go to the movie, you get a reduced price ticket. You go to a museum, you get a reduced price ticket. And then museums here are very, very cheap. So you get in for like 3-4 euros. We also offer a museum pass with all of our programs. Students have the opportunity to get a museum pass, which gets them into the States museums. And this is UNESCO World Heritage Museum Island and beyond. Really, really good quality museums. And you can look at the Nefertiti statue, and you can look at the Ishtar Gate, the Pergamon altar, which is not on display right now because they're still renovating, but it'll be, and a huge art collection for all the old masters. So this is sort of something that you can go, and if you're here in the summer, classes are right next door to Museum Island, so you can basically go in between your lunch break and have a look at art. So this is some of the stuff. The art scene is very cool here. You can just walk around and see really cool street art. That's something that we love to do a street art tour in Berlin with our students, and we walk around. We get explanations on who the artist is and what they are doing from other artists who are also doing legal street work. And do the legal spray painting and street art, and then we do our own little thing, and we do little kind of art pieces, and it's really fun, and you can take this home. I also love doing a tour in Berlin. It's a queer walking tour, and you delve into the history of Berlin in the 1920s. It was a huge scene here in Berlin, where a lot of queer people from all over, from the whole spectrum. So it's always weird because we sometimes just say gay Berlin, but it's really queer. It encompasses a lot more. And then we get to know these little sort of clubs and streets, and it's not only historical, but it's also current. You can also get, for 15 euros, you can get a card that gives you discounts for all kind of classical music concerts. Every Tuesday there is a lunch concert, so if you don't have a long Tuesday class or a long Tuesday in school, you can go to a free lunch concert at the Philharmonic. The Berlin Philharmonics are some of the best orchestra that we have. They're world renowned, and you can just sit and have 3-4 musicians play sort of for a small audience of 150 people. So we do, we do these visits in the museums, we do these tours, and we go and really want to show students what else is there. And one of the things that I love to do is the food tour, because food is just as important. It's a cultural thing.
I don't know if you've seen any of the lives that I've posted, but I'm always asking students to talk about food. So please continue. I'm enjoying it.
So one of the tours that I love to do is take students out of the big, beautiful building in the summer at the university, the Prince's Palace. We take a little walk out, and then just next door is where Angela Merkel, our chancellor, has her private apartment. We just walk by, say a quick hello. She's usually not in, she's very busy. We walk past Museum Island, we maybe take a look at one of the museums, and then in the afternoon we go to the street food market, and it's an indoor market hall with street food from around the world, and so you can travel in little bite-sized portions, travel around the world. And this is something, I've had students here who were here for a semester who went every Thursday and went to the street food market.
That would be me.
And it's like 5 euros, 4 euros, 6 euros, and you get small portions. You can even share them. You get a piece of like a pizza or focaccia, and it's 2.50, and then you just eat that and have a little salad, have a little drink. Happy days.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of cool that like it's not just German food is amazing. I have no qualms about German food. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's kind of cool that you get to experience the melting pot of all the other cultures that have, you know, migrated to Germany. It really kind of shows you the diversity within the city. So that's very cool. Do you have like a favorite dish? I feel like you have got to have a favorite.
So I am a vegetarian, so the German food is not for me.
Okay.
I have never been in as many German restaurants as I've been since I've had this job, because of course all the hello dinners are at German restaurants, but then we quickly branch out. So one of the things that I really enjoy, sort of German style, is Spätzle. It's this German style mac and cheese.
Okay.
Basically, but it's with eggy noodles, and they're very thick, and then it's very nice. And we do Flammkuchen, which is like a very thin crust pizza. It's a tarte flambée. It's from the southern western part of Germany, where France is, the Alsace region, and you get like a thin crust pizza with lots and lots of stinky melted cheese on top and onions.
Yeah, and those would both fall under that vegetarian. Yeah, so
those are both
nice.
vegetarian. If you're a vegan, you also have really good options in Berlin. Maybe not the German ones, but I've had students who had to be gluten-free, students who are vegan, who are vegetarian, who don't eat a specific thing. Not an issue in Berlin. Even when we go to a German restaurant, we of course make sure that there's always options available for anyone who wants to, or who has a restriction and who needs to do their diet in a certain way. I love taking students to this little tea place. It's called the Tajik Tea Room. You sit on the floor, and it's on little cushions, and you have a Russian tea ceremony, and there's a samovar coming in, and you get this little bit of tea and then hot water on top. It's really good.
I'm just, my mind has melted with all of these wonderful things that we have to try. Yeah, I think Germany kind of gets that reputation of like, oh, the bratwurst and like all of the meats and everything, but you can definitely navigate as a vegetarian or a vegan in the city of Berlin. That is a fun fact in itself. Very, very cool.
And we try to do this. We try to do this. We do a cooking day, basically, as one of our cultural things here in our cultural calendar. We rent a little kitchen, and then we do German Latkes, which is like potato pancakes. And in the winter time, we do German Christmas cookies. And I believe we have prepared a little bit for the AFS blog, so you'll get a few recipes. So be on the lookout for that. We'll post those. We'll do German-style Christmas cookies this year.
Excellent. I wonder if in the future we're going to have to do a blog post of all of the different locations that do the Christmas cookies, and maybe vote which ones look the most aesthetically pleasing, because I believe Prague does the same. So you guys might have to have some kind of bake-off in the future. I don't know. We might have to set that up. Very cool. So we've talked about cultural activities within the city, within the region. Can you tell us a little bit about excursions through AIFS, maybe places that you would recommend students that maybe we don't necessarily have an excursion for, but places that you would recommend that they definitely check out while they're in the country?
One place that is always in every program that we always do is Potsdam. It's a proper city. It's the capital for the Brandenburg region that's around Berlin, but it's the Versailles to our Berlin. It has 12 palaces, so it's as if Versailles was split up into, it's not just one palace. Versailles split up into little palaces. There's 4 huge parks and gardens. This is where I was a tour guide, and this is also where my alma mater, my university is. So I know this inside and out. And you have a Russian quarter, you have a Dutch quarter, you have these Baroque palaces, and then there's very modern ones from the 20th century. This is where the Potsdam Conference took place with Churchill, Truman, Stalin deciding on how to deal with Germany and the world after World War II. It's a place where movies are being made, Babelsberg Film Studios. If anyone is watching Babylon Berlin, that's in Berlin, but it's in Potsdam. So that's really cool. So Potsdam is really near and dear to my heart, and it's like a half an hour outside of Berlin. So it's really easy to go to. So students can just hop on a train and go on an afternoon and go to the Christmas markets there in Christmas time. Not this year, but in any other year. I love taking students to the Baltic Sea. It's about 3 hours outside of Berlin, and you can just go straight up north, and then you have the ocean. And we go in different times of the year. So in the summer, last summer, we were really lucky, and we were able, for the fall program, to spend a day on the beach and then look at, the beautiful town from the 1400s with a church that is really still there, and it's from 1234 when it was built, and we climbed the tower to like 500 stairs up. And we do these little sort of walks around the towns and cities. I love taking students on the optional trips to Warsaw and to Prague. Prague, everyone has sort of heard of, and yes, it's a beautiful town, and I love going there, and the students love it. It's very accessible because it has it's all in the city center, it's all walkable, and it's a great fun trip. And then Warsaw is a little different because Poland is something that especially US students, I think, and Germans as well, don't really think about as a destination. So we go to Warsaw, and it's one train ride all the way through. And that town was destroyed by the Germans. We occupied it for a long time, and then when the Russians sort of closed in, we sort of got rid of the whole town and basically bombed it all ourselves before it could go back to the Russians. And the Polish people were able to rebuild it in a matter of 10 years. And you walk through town, the old town center, and you feel like you're really sort of in a historical town center, and it's really cool. But then they also have modern buildings on the side. So these little trips where we always do a walking tour, we have a quick look around, that's always fun. My hometown, Hamburg, of course, is a great idea to go to as well. We haven't had it in the program, but we'll do an optional trip in the future on our semester program, and we'll add it in because students were like, but why are we not going to Hamburg? We've only been once, and I always want too much there, so we now have a full weekend that we'll do Hamburg, and that's fun. And it's only 2 hours away on the train, so it's not too bad.
Yeah. Everything's very accessible because of the train systems in Europe. Absolutely. And yeah, you have been a certified tour guide, Nele, so you have to take these students to your hometown. It's only fair. Very cool. So we're gonna see, I saw some questions pop through. Let me see where we land here. All right, we have one question here, Kat Rogliano, and you kind of touched on this with the recycling, but the question is Berlin a green city? So if you can kind of tell us a little bit more about how that's working.
Absolutely. So green in both senses. It's very green. We have a huge park in the city center, the Tiergarten, but it's also it's a city where you also have nature around. It's not just all big buildings, but then green in the recycling sense, absolutely. You have different, like you have at least 3 or 4 different garbage cans when you throw something away, so you have to know the system.
You can't eeny, meeny, miny, mo, it doesn't work.
Yeah, no, it doesn't fly. If your German sees you throwing something away in the wrong one, they will yell at you.
No, not a good way to make friends.
Yeah, and you get, if you have like a bottle for water, like a plastic bottle, you get a deposit back so that you will actually take it back to the store. And I know in some places, like in California, you have this as well in the US, but in most places you don't. And this is an incentive to have people not throw away the garbage nilly-willy, but to actually bring it back and have it recycled properly. I mean, it's still plastic, it's still not great, but it helps along a lot. We have initiatives here. So when we had a big airport in the city center, and they closed it down a few years ago, and the Berliners voted to make it a park. So now we have the tarmac where people go on bike rides, and you have this as a huge green oasis right in the city center. And anyone who flew into Tegel, all the students that are watching, I've seen a few names here, a few alumni, it's closing down this weekend. So our new airport is opening up, and then we will not have any more airplanes over Berlin city proper. That was sort of the goal. Yes, it's a good thing. The public transportation is, of course, part of the green initiative as well. Public transportation is big. Bike riding is big. So we can even see it in the different part of the city. So in the east and western part of the city, you can see the different concepts. In East Berlin, we still have the trams, the cable cars in the city. In the West, they got rid of them because they wanted to be more like the US of A. And so cars were more important, and we don't like it so much right now. We would love to have the trams, but so you have more highways in the city center, whereas in the East they had more, which is accessible for more people. They had more public transportation. So it's always interesting to see this sort of growing more and more. Yeah, but it's a very green city, and it's always a subject in our classes as well, because people come here and want to look for sustainability courses, and I'm interested in that.
Excellent. Yes, perfect. Well, good. Again, we can learn a thing or two from. What is the name of that park that was once a it was a tarmac, or is a tarmac, now it is a park?
Yeah, so the tarmac is still there, and the building is still there. It's Tempelhof. Tempelhof, and it was the airport. So if you watch any movies from the 1960s, I highly recommend Billy Wilder's 1, 2, 3. It was actually shot in Berlin, and during the shooting of the movie, the wall was suddenly erected. So in the movie, they go through to east and west, and they go through the Brandenburg Gate, and then suddenly, while they were shooting the movie, the wall was up, and they couldn't go anymore. And they fly in the Pan Am sort of aircrafts are flying into the Tempelhof airport. And this is where the Berlin airlift took place, where the city was had sort of coals delivered by U.S. And British sort of pilots for 11 months.
Excellent. Oh, so much history. We could go on for hours. No, it's awesome. I had another student said, 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦 says, yes, love the architecture. 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦, me too, architectural variety, very cool. Also, Maura, have your bags ready. I think she meant for the grocery shopping, for the speedy shopping.
You really have to be on your game.
Yes, that is some experiential learning that we'll be taking outside of the classroom as well. J has a question. I have friends overseas from when I lived there a few years ago. Would I be able to visit them, or can they visit me when I'm in Berlin? I don't think you can have guests in the housing, but if you want to expand on that question, by all means.
So since the homestays are organized through the university, they have a bit different rules than we at AFS do. So if you ask your host families in a homestay if you can have guests, you should offer to give them a little bit of money just to cover expenses. They usually don't want to have any, but it's polite to offer. And then you could technically have people over. Since we have shared apartments for everyone else, we don't have overnight guests in the apartments. It's just awkward if you have to talk, to your roommate about it, and they might not feel comfortable saying no, and then they feel uncomfortable with someone in their space. So in the apartments, you cannot have people over. But if you want to visit anyone, of course, that's possible. And we always have a list ready with like easy hostels and hotels. And if you're in Berlin as a guest, hotels and hostels are cheap. Berlin itself is very, very affordable. Going out for a meal, you don't spend more than 15 euros, and that includes a drink and a meal. And if you want to be fancy and really sort of have a nice dinner, it's a little bit more, but it's not a lot. And we have this sort of funded Mensa system. That's the food hall, the dining hall, and it's different than at US campuses. So it's not like you have, you know, different restaurants, but you have just one food court, and there's lunch options only. There's no dinner, not real breakfast, but you can have lunch for 4 or 5 euros. It's really cheap. Yeah. And so Berlin is a really affordable city. So any student who maybe is struggling with money, AFS includes a lot of options already. So the housing is included. We have a meal stipend, all of our excursions besides the optional ones, but this is just a really small part, are also included. And one of the excursions that we even haven't talked about is the semester week-long excursion. It's mandatory. You have to travel through Europe.
Yes. I completely agree.
And they take you to different locations. So you go to Hamburg and Copenhagen, or you go to Warsaw and Prague, or you go to the Netherlands and Luxembourg or something like this. And these are really educational and fun trips, and they're great to have them included. And they're part of the package of the deal. So if you pay for the semester, you already have that week-long excursion included anyway.
Very good. We only have 1 minute left. Nele, the timer has come on. I love when they do this to me. It's like pressure. But one question that I always like to ask our resident directors before we leave, because we've covered a lot of these other cool intricacies about Berlin, but they're constantly learning things from you guys. What is one thing that you have learned from the students? And you have 50 seconds, so go right ahead.
To be open, to be more friendly, to approach people, and to have a serious interest in the other without it having to be a long-lasting relationship. What we in Germany deem small talk, you actually do have an interest, but it doesn't have to extend for too long. So I love that in our US students.
To have value in those brief interactions, they still matter just as much.
And awesome. You still mean it. You still want to have it.
Yes, perfect. Well, Nele, I'm sorry we have 20 seconds. So great to have you with us today, guys. If you have any questions for Nele, please send them our way. We will get those to her. Hopefully we'll get to see her again very soon. And I think you say, no, Guten Tag is good morning. Danke. Danke is thank you, right? Perfect.
There you go.
Right? Danke, Nele. We'll see you soon.